The Alchemist, by Paulo Coelho. Introduction. Have you ever wondered why a lake might weep? There's an old story, a legend, about a beautiful young man named Narcissus. Every day, he would kneel by a lake just to stare at his own reflection, so captivated by his own beauty that one day, he fell in and drowned. Where he fell, a flower grew, and they called it the Narcissus. But the author of the book we're exploring today, he found a version of the story that didn't end there. In this telling, the goddesses of the forest came to the lake and found it had transformed from fresh water into a pool of salty tears. "Why do you weep?" the goddesses asked. "I weep for Narcissus," the lake replied. "It's no surprise you weep for him," they said. "After all, you were the only one who could see his beauty up close every single day." The lake was quiet for a moment. And then it said something that changes everything. "But, was Narcissus beautiful?" The goddesses were stunned. "Who would know better than you? He knelt on your banks every day." And the lake answered, "I weep for Narcissus, but I never noticed his beauty. I weep because, every time he knelt beside me, I could see, in the depths of his eyes, my own beauty reflected." What a lovely story. That's how Paulo Coelho begins his masterpiece, The Alchemist. And it's the perfect entry point into a book that isn't just a story, but a mirror. A book that has sold more than 20 million copies and been translated into over 56 languages, not because it tells us something new about the world, but because it shows us the beauty and the treasure hidden within ourselves. The author, Paulo Coelho, is a man who understands this journey intimately. He was born in Brazil and, for much of his life, his own dream of becoming a writer seemed impossible. He traveled the world, wrote popular songs, and even spent time in prison. It wasn't until he was 38 that he published his first book. His own life was a quest, a pilgrimage, much like the one he describes in his work. He had to walk his own path to find his own treasure. And that is the promise of our journey today. By the time we're done, you'll understand the secret that a young shepherd boy discovered on his travels from the fields of Spain to the sands of Egypt. You'll learn about your own personal legend, and you will come to believe in a profound truth that is the beating heart of this book, that when you want something with all your heart, the entire universe conspires to help you achieve it. So, let's begin. Book summary. Our story starts with a boy named Santiago. He's a shepherd in the Andalusian countryside of Spain, and his life is a simple one. He knows his sheep, every single one of them. He knows the fields, the seasons, and the rhythm of the sun. His world is his flock, the books he reads, and the freedom to wander. There is only one thing that stirs a deeper longing in him: the daughter of a merchant in a town he visits once a year. He finds himself wishing the days would pass quickly so he can see her again, feeling something he's never felt before, the desire to stay in one place. But Santiago is also troubled by a dream. A dream he's had twice now. In it, a child appears and transports him to the Great Pyramids of Egypt, telling him, "If you come here, you will find a hidden treasure." The dream always ends right before the child reveals the exact location. This dream becomes a quiet hum beneath the surface of his peaceful life. He decides to visit an old gypsy woman in the town of Tarifa who interprets dreams. After hearing his story, she makes him a simple, yet profound promise. She tells him to go to the pyramids in Egypt, for there he will find a treasure that will make him a rich man. Her price? 1/10 of the treasure, if he finds it. Santiago leaves feeling disappointed, even a little foolish. He didn't need a dream interpreter for that. But as he sits in the plaza, trying to read a new book, an old man approaches him. The man's name is Melchizedek, and he claims to be the king of a distant land called Salem. At first, Santiago thinks he's just a strange old man. But this king knows things about him, the names of his parents, the seminary he attended, things Santiago has never told anyone. And it's this old king who gives Santiago the first great lesson of his journey. He tells him about something called a personal legend. It's what you have always wanted to accomplish, the king explains. Everyone, when they are young, knows what their personal legend is. In those moments, everything feels possible, and we aren't afraid to dream. But as time goes on, a mysterious force convinces us that it's impossible. The old king then tells him about what he calls the world's greatest lie. And what is that lie? It's this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. Santiago pushes back. That's never happened to me, he says. They wanted me to be a priest, but I decided to become a shepherd. Much better, the old man replies. Because you really like to travel. Melchizedek explains that to realize one's personal legend is a person's only real obligation. And then he speaks the words that will echo throughout Santiago's entire journey, the very heart of this story. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. The king asks for 1/10 of his sheep as payment for telling him how to find the treasure. He warns the boy that if you start by promising what you don't yet have, you lose the desire to get it. Before he leaves, he gives Santiago 2 stones, one black and one white, called Urim and Thummim. The black means yes, and the white means no, to help him read the omens when he cannot make a decision on his own. With the old king's words burning in his heart, Santiago makes a choice. He sells his flock and buys a ticket to Tangier, in Africa. He has crossed the threshold. There is no going back. Almost immediately, his journey meets its first great test. Within hours of arriving in the bustling, confusing city of Tangier, a place where he doesn't even speak the language, he is befriended by a young man who promises to be his guide to the pyramids. Trusting him, Santiago hands over all the money he made from selling his sheep. And in the blink of an eye, in the middle of a crowded marketplace, his new friend vanishes, leaving him utterly alone, penniless, and in a foreign land. Despair washes over him. He weeps. He feels that God is unfair, that his dream was a lie, and that he should have never left the comfort of his life as a shepherd. In that empty marketplace, as the sun sets, he feels like a victim. He has nothing left but his jacket, a heavy book, and the 2 stones the king gave him. But as he holds the stones, Urim and Thummim, he remembers the king's promise. He realizes he has a choice. He can see himself as a poor victim of a thief, or as an adventurer in search of his treasure. I'm an adventurer, looking for treasure, he says to himself. And with that simple shift in perspective, his journey truly begins. He needs money, so he finds work with a crystal merchant whose shop sits at the top of a sleepy hill, rarely seeing customers. The merchant is a kind but melancholic man, a man stuck in his ways. He, too, has a dream, a lifelong desire to make the pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. But he is never gone. Because it's the thought of Mecca that keeps me alive, the merchant confesses to the boy. I'm afraid that if my dream is realized, I'll have no reason to go on living. He prefers the dream to the reality. Santiago sees in the merchant a reflection of what he could become, someone who lets fear stop them from pursuing their personal legend. He doesn't just work in the shop, he brings it back to life. He cleans the crystal, builds a display case outside to attract customers, and even suggests serving tea in the beautiful crystal glasses. Business booms. The boy learns about patience, about the quiet dignity of work, and about omens. He learns a word the merchant often uses, maktub. It is written. After nearly a year, Santiago has earned enough money to buy double the number of sheep he had before and return to Spain a successful man. He has a choice to make. He can go back to the life he knew, or he can press on toward the pyramids. Egypt is still a distant dream, just as Mecca is for the merchant. He remembers the old king's words, "Never stop dreaming. Follow the omens." He thinks about the language the world speaks, a language of enthusiasm, love, and purpose. He realizes that the hills of Andalusia are only 2 hours away, but he is now also 2 hours closer to his treasure. The year he spent in the crystal shop wasn't a detour, it was part of the path. He decides to continue his quest. Santiago joins a great caravan crossing the vast Sahara Desert toward Egypt. On this journey, he meets an Englishman, a man obsessed with books and the study of alchemy, the ancient science of turning lead into gold. The Englishman is not seeking gold for wealth, he's seeking the secrets of the universe, what he calls the soul of the world. He is traveling to the Al-Fayoum oasis, hoping to find a legendary, 200-year-old alchemist who is said to live there. As they travel, the boy learns from everyone around him. The Englishman teaches him about the principles of alchemy from his books, the elixir of life, the philosopher's stone, and the idea that all things are a manifestation of one thing only. But Santiago finds it is more interesting to observe the caravan and listen to the desert itself. He befriends a camel driver, a man who lost everything in a flood but learned a profound lesson from it. "We are afraid of losing what we have," the driver tells him, "but this fear evaporates when we understand that our life stories and the history of the world were written by the same hand." He teaches Santiago to live in the present moment, because life is the moment we're living right now. The desert, Santiago discovers, has its own language. It teaches silence, patience, and the importance of paying attention to the signs. He begins to understand that the world speaks a universal language, one without words, understood through omens and intuition. Their journey is interrupted. Rumors of tribal wars force the caravan to stop indefinitely at the magnificent Al-Fayoum oasis, a sprawling city of tents, wells, and palm trees in the middle of the desert. The oasis is neutral territory, a place of refuge. It is here that Santiago's journey takes its most profound turn. The Englishman is desperate to find the alchemist. As they search, Santiago approaches a well to ask for help. And there, he sees a young woman named Fatima. In that instant, time stops. He understands the most important part of the language of the world, love. He knows, with a certainty that shakes his soul, that she is the woman he has been waiting for his entire life, and she knows it too. It is a love that requires no explanation, a love more ancient than the desert itself. Maktub. It is written. He tells Fatima that he loves her and wants her to be his wife. He begins to think that perhaps she is his treasure. Perhaps the war, which seemed like a curse, was actually a blessing that brought him to her. He would be happy to stay at the oasis forever. But Fatima is a woman of the desert. She understands that men must follow their dreams. The dunes are changed by the wind, but the desert never changes, she tells him. That's the way it will be with our love. She insists that he continue his journey. "If I am really a part of your dream," she says, "you'll come back one day." Her words are a test of his resolve. Love, he learns, does not demand possession, but liberation. One day, while watching two hawks flying in the sky, Santiago has a sudden, violent vision, an army attacking the oasis. He is shaken. An oasis is a neutral ground, attacking one is a violation of the most sacred traditions of the desert. He remembers the old king's advice, always heed the omens. With great courage, he tells the tribal chieftains of his vision. They are skeptical. Why would the desert reveal this to a stranger? Because my eyes are not yet accustomed to the desert, the boy answers. I can see things that eyes habituated to the desert might not see. The eldest chieftain, a wise man who recalls the story of Joseph of Egypt, another stranger in a strange land who could interpret dreams, decides to heed the warning. The men of the oasis will be armed, but he gives the boy a chilling ultimatum: for every 10 enemies killed, Santiago will receive a piece of gold. But if no attack comes, his own life will be forfeit. The next day, the vision comes true. A legion of warriors attacks the oasis, only to be met by the prepared men of Al-Fayoum. The oasis is saved. Santiago is hailed as a hero and made counselor of the oasis. That evening, a powerful figure appears. A horseman dressed entirely in black, with a falcon on his shoulder, emerges from the desert in a whirlwind of dust and sound. He holds an enormous, curved sword to Santiago's forehead and demands to know who dared to read the flight of the hawks. Trembling, but with a strange sense of joy, Santiago accepts his fate. He is about to die in pursuit of his personal legend, and for Fatima. I read only what the birds wanted to tell me, he says. They wanted to save the oasis. The horseman lowers his sword. He was testing the boy's courage. Courage, he says, is the quality most essential to understanding the language of the world. The boy has met the alchemist. The alchemist tells Santiago that he will guide him the rest of the way to the pyramids. But Santiago is torn. He has found love, wealth, and status at the oasis. Why should he leave? The alchemist paints a stark picture of his future if he stays. He would be happy for a time, but the unfulfilled dream of his treasure would haunt him. The omens would eventually fall silent, and Fatima would feel the weight of having held him back. Love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend, the alchemist tells him. If he abandons that pursuit, it's because it wasn't true love. Santiago understands. He bids Fatima farewell, promising to return, and rides out into the desert with the alchemist. As they travel, the alchemist teaches him not through books, but through action and silence. He teaches Santiago to listen to his heart. Wherever your heart is, that is where you'll find your treasure, the alchemist says. At first, the boy's heart is agitated and fearful. It speaks of the pain of leaving Fatima and the danger of dying in the desert. Tell your heart, the alchemist advises, that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself, and that no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams. Santiago listens. He and his heart become friends, and he learns to trust its wisdom. His heart grows quiet, content to simply exist in the present, drinking from the soul of the world. Their journey culminates in the final, ultimate test. They are captured by a heavily armed tribe. To save their lives, the alchemist makes an astonishing claim to the tribal chief. This boy is an alchemist, he says. He understands the forces of nature. He is going to transform himself into the wind. The chief, intrigued, gives them 3 days. If the boy fails, they will both be killed. Santiago is terrified. He has no idea how to turn himself into the wind. There is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve, the alchemist tells him gently. The fear of failure. On the 3rd day, before the chief and his men, Santiago climbs a cliff. He looks out at the desert he has come to know and begins to speak to it. He asks the desert for help, but the desert says it cannot help alone. He must ask the wind. He speaks to the wind, who is proud and says that a man and the wind are 2 very different things. But the boy explains that they were made by the same hand and have the same soul. He speaks of love, the force that connects all things. The wind, unable to understand love, tells him to ask heaven. So the boy speaks to the sun. The sun knows about the soul of the world, but it, too, says it cannot turn a man into the wind. Speak to the hand that wrote all, the sun advises. And so, in the silence, as a furious sandstorm rages around them, the boy reaches out to the hand that wrote all. He doesn't speak. He prays a prayer without words. He understands that everything, the desert, the wind, the sun, himself, is part of a larger design. He reaches through to the soul of the world and sees that it is a part of the soul of God. And he sees that the soul of God is his own soul. And in that moment, he understands that he, a boy, can perform miracles. When the storm subsides, the boy is standing on the other side of the camp. He has become the wind. The chief and his men, awed by this power, let them go with an escort. Near the pyramids, the alchemist stops at a monastery. There, as a final lesson, he takes a sliver from a yellow glass egg, the philosopher's stone, and transforms a pan of lead into solid gold. He divides the gold, giving a piece to the monk, a piece to himself, and 2 pieces to the boy, one for what he lost to the general, and one to hold in reserve, just in case. Finally, Santiago is alone. He rides the last few hours and, under the light of the full moon, he sees them, the solemn, majestic pyramids of Egypt. He falls to his knees and weeps, his heart bursting with gratitude. His heart whispers to him, "Be aware of the place where you are brought to tears. That's where I am, and that's where your treasure is." Where his tears have fallen, he sees a scarab beetle, a sacred symbol of God in Egypt. This is the omen. He begins to dig. He digs all night, but finds nothing. Just as he is about to give up, he is attacked by a group of refugees from the tribal wars. They beat him savagely and steal the piece of gold the alchemist gave him. When he screams that he is digging for treasure from a dream, they mock him. But before they leave, the leader turns back. "You shouldn't be so stupid," he says. 2 years ago, right on this very spot, I had a recurrent dream too. I dreamed I should travel to the fields of Spain and find a ruined church where shepherds sleep. I dreamed that if I dug at the roots of the sycamore tree in the sacristy, I would find a hidden treasure. But I'm not so stupid as to cross an entire desert because of a dream. And then they are gone. The boy gets to his feet, his heart bursting with joy. He looks at the pyramids, and they seem to laugh at him. And he laughs back. Because now he knows where his treasure is. In the epilogue, Santiago returns to the small, abandoned church in Spain where his journey began. The sycamore tree is still there. He digs at its base, and his shovel hits something solid. It is a chest filled with Spanish gold coins, precious stones, and golden masks. He had to travel all the way to Egypt to learn from a stranger where the treasure was buried, right where he had started. The journey was necessary. Without it, he never would have found his way back. As he looks at his treasure, a warm wind begins to blow. It's the levanter, the wind from Africa. It carries with it the scent of a perfume he knows well, and the touch of a kiss that has traveled across the desert to find him. He smiles. "I'm coming, Fatima," he says. Commentary. So what does this beautiful, simple story teach us? It's a fable, an allegory, and its lessons are as vast as the desert Santiago crossed. But if we were to distill its wisdom into a few core truths, truths that you can carry with you starting today, I think they would be these. First, is the idea of the personal legend. This isn't just a goal or an ambition. Coelho describes it as your one true obligation in life. It's that deep-seated calling you've felt since you were young, before the world told you it was impractical or impossible. The Alchemist is a powerful reminder to listen for that call. What is the dream that keeps reappearing in your life? That's not a coincidence. It's a map. And the book reassures us that we are worthy of that dream. The second great lesson is about the journey itself. Santiago's treasure wasn't just the gold in the chest, it was the man he became in order to find it. He had to learn the language of the world, to listen to his heart, to understand love, and to face his deepest fears. The treasure was the excuse to begin the journey. The real reward was the wisdom he gained along the way. This is a powerful message for any of us who are focused solely on the destination. The detours, the setbacks, the work in the crystal shop, those aren't obstacles to the path. They are the path. And this leads to the third lesson, the role of love. How many times do we think that our responsibilities to the people we love hold us back from our dreams? The Alchemist presents a radical alternative. Through Fatima, we learn that true love is not about possession, it's about liberation. It doesn't chain you down, it gives you the strength to pursue your legend, knowing you have a home to return to. As the Alchemist says, love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend. If it does, it wasn't true love to begin with. So, how can you apply this timeless wisdom to your life, right now? Start by asking yourself a simple question. What was my dream before I was told what I should dream? Think back to when you were younger. What did you want to do or be? That's often where your personal legend is hiding. Next, start paying attention to the omens. This doesn't mean looking for magic signs in the sky. It means noticing the coincidences, the unexpected opportunities, the people who show up at just the right time. The universe is always speaking to you. The question is, are you listening? And finally, take one small, courageous step. Santiago's entire journey began with a single decision: to sell his sheep. What is your equivalent of selling the sheep? It might be signing up for a class, having a difficult conversation, or simply buying a book on a subject that has always fascinated you. The universe can't conspire to help you if you're standing still. You have to take that first step. That was A Journey Through the Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. We've touched upon the major themes and followed Santiago's path from shepherd to adventurer, but I'll be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. The real magic happens when you decide to travel there yourself. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple phrase from the book connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This podcast is designed to help you see if this book is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has stirred something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning ideas, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and the path laid out before you. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this exploration valuable, it would mean the world if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.